All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Jason Flame, and welcome to Master Motivation this Monday, May 2nd. Those of you that are watching now live, this is a little earlier time, so I hope we'll get a few more comments and a little bit of interaction. I'd like to introduce my guest. Our guest today is Mr. Christopher Rappold. He holds a 6th-degree black belt and is a 5-time world champion and the executive director of Team Paul Mitchell Karate. He's a graduate of Bridgewater State College with a degree in exercise physiology. He has represented the United States as a top athlete, ambassador in his sport many times over the years. He has been honored locally as Business Person of the Year, Family Business of the Year by Northeastern University, Humanitarian of the Year, and was picked as one of the 50 most influential people to graduate Cardinal Spellman High School in its 50-year history. Wow, that's a great introduction and a lot more that I can't wait for you to tell everybody all about. So, sir, welcome to the show and thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, well, it's my pleasure to be here. And as I was saying a little bit earlier, you've had some really good people on that I've enjoyed watching. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. I've been fortunate enough in the martial arts industry to meet just the most amazing people and people that are doing just great things, whether they're athletes or they're school owners or coaches, you name it. Just through all the years of meeting and networking with everybody, I think this is an awesome opportunity to share everybody's story because I think that we get inspired by hearing people's story, where they came from, how they started, some of their setbacks, failures, successes, and so forth. So
Yeah.
we got a couple viewers so far. So guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop any questions in the comments, and we'll definitely address those. So I'd love to just kind of start talking a little bit about Team Paul Mitchell. Can you tell
Okay.
can you tell everybody about Team Paul Mitchell and what you do for them?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say that I think you and I are lucky because the type of job that we have, it really exposes us to a wide variety of people. And like myself, you've been very fortunate to meet some of the best and brightest in the world within our industry, which is really cool. And then being a business owner in your community as well, you get to meet a lot of people from different industries and different walks of life, and it really it creates just a nice richness in your life, right? So
Absolutely.
you started out with Team Paul Mitchell. I was uh, skill, yes. Hard work, yes. But a lot of people do have that. I really have to say, right place, right time. Back when I was in college, I was competing locally, and it was my good fortune that the owner, John Paul DeJoria, decided to sponsor a local team in New England. And at the time, again, timing was everything perfect. I had the number one spot in the United States, and I was picked up on this team, this regional team. And if you know anything about sport karate over the past 35 years, it's really become kind of the gold standard in sport karate. I competed with them for 12 years. Excuse me. Geez, I don't know how many years. A good long time. And and had a good level of success. Then I retired. I did something that none of the other team members ever did. Is I retired and I didn't compete in a single tournament for 12 years. And I really just focused on personal best and what I was doing in the community, etc. And then around 37 or so, 36, 37, I think I went through a little bit of a midlife crisis and said, you know what? I want to do this again. I always loved the challenge of
Hmm.
competing because of what it did for me. It just created that push and that motivation, to
Right.
train. So I decided I wanted to come back, and again, I had a good level of success. I won my last world title in Dublin, Ireland in 2011. And then and I came out, Jason, unscathed, like not a mark on me. And then about 6 weeks later, I joined a non-competitive pickup, a men's pickup basketball league because they were meeting at like 9:30 at night.
Hmm.
And on a fast break, I went to swoop for the ball. I got my hand stuck on somebody's hip. They kept going. My wrist stayed right there, and it
Oof.
just broke it.
Oh.
And I kind of took that as a sign that, well, maybe this is God's way of saying, okay, Chris, I gave you, I gave you a second chance. I let you have your comeback now. Now enough. And I was fortunate at the time um, that the person at the time uh, decided to create an executive team. Julie Sowald. She created an executive team. She was the vice president of global sports marketing for Paul Mitchell, and she wanted to put this committee of people together that she knew and trusted, and I was one of 5 of those people. And I want to say that was 2011, 2012.
Hmm.
And so I've been the executive director of that team now for, well, since that time.
Right.
And my responsibilities, cover the gamut. It's communication with the team members. It's recruiting. It's coaching and training. It's
Hmm.
therapy sometimes for our being a professional athlete isn't always that easy. It's traveling with the team, looking for ways that we can extend the reach of Paul Mitchell. We've
Hmm.
over the past few years, we've brought our athletes to some children's hospitals to perform, and we've kind of looked outside of the tournament world. And it's just been a lot of fun. It really, really has. And then maybe about 6 years ago, I took Century Martial Arts, and which we both know and love. And I took Century Martial Arts and Paul Mitchell, and with the help of a couple of our team members, we put those two large entities that had never really spoken to each other together.
Hmm.
Um, as you probably, well, you do wrestling, right? So there's different worlds you and I both live in. So I've lived an entire life in sport karate, and I've known people my entire life there. And then I've also been in a professional martial arts instructor for my entire adult life.
Hmm.
But up until then, those two worlds never really talked to each other.
Hmm.
In fact, in a lot of ways, there was some adversarial positions. Like there's the business people, and then there's the true purists. And I'm very proud of the fact that bringing that together has spawned a lot of synergy.
Hmm.
So,
For sure, for sure. Well, and for those of you that are watching, because we'll have people that are watching that aren't familiar with martial arts at all, and not familiar with the sport karate world. But as you mentioned, Team Paul Mitchell for as long as I can remember, and I started training in 1985. In the 90s, I can remember Team Paul Mitchell was it. I mean, that was the team that everybody strived to be on. Everybody would watch them, because it was just so simple. The uniform with the logo, and just everybody's like, "Whoa!" They'd always be looking at those competitors.
yeah.
What was it like? Your life as a competitor. What are some of the greatest lessons that you learned as a competitor, and then as you transitioned into being more of a coach?
Um, like I said, I've lived an entire life in that. So you start out as a person that's competing, and the whole world is open to you, and you know nothing. Right? I remember the first tournament I competed in. Somebody threw a high kick at me, and of course, I tried to do a rise and block. That didn't, end up voting too well for me. And then, you meet people along the way, and you know, there's people like in life. There's people that are below you in skill level. There's people at your level, and then there's people above you, and that's a I guess an analogy that you could say as far as professional martial arts, as far as being a business owner, people below, people at your level, people above. And so as you're traveling through those different levels, it's just so important to be respectful, because if you are honorable and you do things the right way, you are going to spend some time at each one of those levels. And when you're there, you want people to be supportive of your hopes and dreams. So I'm very fortunate, very, very fortunate that on each one of those stages, I had some great people around me, advising me, coaching me, encouraging me, um, competing against me, which of course made me better and made me have to face resistance and challenge and things not going, my way. So as far as the life lessons, it really it's been all encompassing for me. Um, so if you sucked out of my life all of the things that I've learned from the beautiful sport that we all love, it would my life would probably be a little bit shallow. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm just very, very blessed. Yeah.
And how did you? What made you make the decision? You mentioned that you retired. What made you make that decision? Had you accomplished all that you wanted to accomplish? Did you feel maybe it was just time? Did you feel pulled to becoming a coach? Um,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Yeah. I think my goal that I set quite young in life is I wanted to be the world champion in karate. And my vision at that time, that was as far as it went. I just never had the desire to see, well, how many years in a row could I win it or anything
Hmm.
like that. So um, I had an uncle, still have an uncle, and a godfather who gave me the book Think and Grow Rich when I was 16 years old, and I was already in martial arts at the time. And there's a very popular book. I'm sure you read it, and it wasn't so much about the richness; it was more just about abundant thinking. And I had never had at that point in my life uh, somebody express possibility in that way to me. So I really found martial arts and I loved it. And I was fortunate, again, blessed. Who did I have as an instructor at that time? I had Billy Blanks. And if a lot of people know Billy Blanks as the Taibo guy, but
Hmm.
I knew him when he was, the most dominant, competitor in the world, and he was a bodybuilding athlete, and he was on Wide World of Sports, and he, yada 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 yada. So I looked at, the principles that were talked about in the book Think and Grow Rich, and you can manifest anything in your life with good focus and everything. And I said, you know what, I'm going to put this book to the test. And where I'm at right now, 15, 16 years old, and I have this mentor and this example. If I apply all these principles, would I be able to do that with myself? And so when I was able, I won the world championship in 1995 after three attempts. I came real close in 91. Um, in 93, um, I ended so in 91, I lost it right at the last second. In 93, I ended up taking third, lost to a great, great fighter who became a good friend. And then in 95, I was able to do that. So at that time, that was as far as my vision was. I accomplished the goal and yahoo. And now I'm going to go on to a different stage of my life. And I found myself, look, you live a role because of your age and your family and your responsibilities and all of that. And I found myself at 35, 36, whatever I was, kind of having a piece missing in my life that I really enjoyed. But,
Hmm.
kind of society was saying, well, you don't do that anymore because now you have responsibilities and you have kids and, yada, yada. And I found myself being at a place that, no, wait a minute, this is my life. And if this is something that brings me joy and helps me be a greater example to people, why not? So it was just something personal to me. I had a situation where I was, and I won't use names, but I was at an event in Virginia, and I was sitting between these two people. One was just an amazing individual, world class martial artist, and then so he was probably at the time maybe about 60, And then on the other side of me, there was this, I think he was probably 40 at the time. And, he was kind of touting himself as, I'm a grandmaster and all of that. And I'm thinking, okay, grandmaster, you're 40 years old, and I know when you were a brown belt, how on earth is that possible? And it was a beautiful gift that I was given at the time, because it gave me the contrast of, who do I want to be? Do I want to be this person that has these titles, but kind of maybe hides behind them a little bit? Or do I want to be this other authentic person that at 60 years old and, an amazingly decorated person, refused that, the other gentleman referred to him as a grandmaster. He said, I'm no grandmaster. He said, I'm a student. And
Hmm.
it was like, wow, wow, that's
Hmm.
cool. And that was one of those little things that just made me say, you know what, this is how I want to be, and whatever
Hmm.
happens, but I can be happy with that.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome story. And as you were telling that story, kind of relating to different the personalities, I guess, or the way that they perceive themselves. It made me think of Mike Dillard, the owner of Century Martial Arts. And I remember the first few times that I met him, and I've just watched him over the years. And we're talking about someone who is highly successful, right? Highly successful. Um, but one of the most humble men you've ever met in your life, who is wearing karate pants and a t-shirt when he runs the event at the Martial Arts Super Show. And you could walk up and have a conversation, and people walk away and they go, well, who is that? Well, that's Mike Dillard. He owns Century Martial Arts. But he's so, and when you talk about what kind of person you want to be and what a great example people can be to you in your life, and now who you are to other people in your life, I mean, it's just I love that. I love hearing that, because sometimes the titles and the money and the I've won this or I've won that, and is it really all about that, or is it about something a little bit deeper?
Listen, I'm proud, and I'm proud for all of my friends that have big titles and accolades and success. That's what I want for everybody. I don't begrudge anybody that. And the gentleman on the other side of me, if that brings him comfort in his life, it just was a contrast of what I didn't want. You bring up Mr. Dillard. The humility in that gentleman is astounding to me. He is the most down to earth, regular person. He when I go to Century, he takes my karate class. I feel weird, because he
Hmm.
is such a senior to me in years of martial arts experience.
Hmm.
But you're talking about a person that I went to. He took me. He said, "Hey, you want to go to see a basketball game? Go to see the Oklahoma City Thunder." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, it sounds good." And just to be able to spend some time with them, and we go into the arena, and I'm like, "Wow, these are where we come out. Oh, these are going to be pretty good seats." He literally is sitting. We sat front row so much that Kevin Durant at the time almost stepped on my foot on an out of bounds pass. And then, uh, I'm eating this private buffet with him, and then he leaves the room for a second. He's like, "Hey, Chris, come on out here." He stopped the entire Oklahoma City Thunder cheerleaders just so I could take a picture with them. and but outside of a story like that and just meeting him, you wouldn't know he's anything. And then, of course, the other person that has just been, instrumental in my life on that level is, John Paul DeJoria. John Paul is worth, yeah, who knows, but $5 billion, $7 billion. He started, well, he's owned a lot of companies, but the past couple of years he sold Patron tequila. A lot of people don't know he owned that, and Paul Mitchell, of course. And the the things that I have seen that man do with his wealth are just humbling. The way that he's taken care of our team over the years, just the generosity of spirit that he has. And again, and it was a thrill for me to introduce him to Mr. Dillard. talking about just a down to earth guy when you just sit down and talk to him. But, this is a person that has, met all of the presidents and the Dalai Lama and, yada, yada, yada. And, but just a both remarkable individuals to model a level of humility and excellence after. Yeah.
And what I loved that you said about him as well is just his generosity, what he's done with his wealth. You mentioned the contrast, right? And everybody, like you said, has their own level of success in their mind and what makes them happy and what makes them feel good. But man, isn't that cool when someone is, at the top of their game and has all of this,
Yep.
and what they do with it is they give to others. And I just think that is,
Yeah.
what the martial arts is about, and what we as humans, should really be thinking a little bit more about, especially over the last couple of years, with how things have been going.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. And again, I don't begrudge anybody for idolizing or finding inspiration from whoever they want. But it's just John Paul has this saying, success unshared is failure. It
Mm,
seems like both him and Mr. Dillard, they the way that they act and relate to everybody around them, it's like they're a cut above, and not in a cocky way, but in a way that those things that might irritate me or trigger you, they're just, they're almost immune to that because they're operating from a higher plane in a bigger view of what's happening. And look, I've seen. I don't think you have to have their net worth to have that mindset. I know a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck, but they bring that same generosity of spirit, and
mhm.
honestly, they inspire me, just as much. These two gentlemen, it ebbed into the conversation, so I think it's noteworthy to bring up both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about your martial arts background.
Mhm.
Before competition, how did it all get started? How did you get started in martial arts?
Blah blah blah. It's the you. I've heard you ask this to people before. So I'm 52 years old, and so for if you know the timelines, that's going to put me at Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, right? So what I always admired about them is how it was the movements for sure, but it was how they could walk into complete danger and yet have a level of calm about them. So from a very young age, I linked that martial arts was going to be my way to be able to, manifest that in my life.
Hmm.
So I had a cousin, and and he invited me to take a class. And I'll tell you, from the time I found it, I just loved it. But again, it was somebody caring enough that was having the experience of martial arts that cared enough about me to say, hey, why don't you come along? I think
Hmm.
this might be good for you. And you know, it, how do you ever repay a person for sharing that thing that they really enjoyed with you?
Hmm.
And when you look at the difference it's made in my life, it's very, very profound. So, I'm one of those, and hopefully I've paid that forward many times over. I'm one of those people that when I find something that I love, I just tell everybody about it. I remember when I bought a juicer, Jason, whether you were interested in juicing or not, you were going to hear about damn juicing from me, right? So martial arts for me is just an easy, because of what I've seen it do for myself and my family, and so many others. It's transformative. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you play any other sports or any other activities that maybe piqued your interest prior to martial arts or after martial arts?
Yeah, yes, sir. I loved basketball. I mean, before I wanted to be a world champion, I thought I was going right to the Boston Celtics because again, time frame wise, I was at the peak age for Larry Bird, Magic Johnson era. So that was just so exciting to me. And I spent hours and hours and days and months and years just out on a blacktop shooting baskets with my friends, and I loved it. I just loved it. Um, but I did it more as an enjoyment. I played baseball. Soccer wasn't really big at the time for me. There wasn't it wasn't as popular as it was now. So there wasn't really soccer leagues or Pop Warner football or anything like that. But, once I hit high school, it was pretty much martial arts for sure. Wish I took up skiing. I was always, for whatever reason, I was always paranoid I was gonna, break my leg and I wouldn't be able to, compete in martial arts. So that kind of drove me. But I love physical activity. Yeah.
And how did you go from, loving martial arts and being a student of the martial arts to wanting to become an instructor? Or did that happen? Sometimes I talk to schoolers and it happens by accident, happens by being, like you said, the right place at the right time, and instructor didn't show up, or here, teach this class, that kind of thing. How did you get into the instructorship?
Very formal, very, very formalized.
Okay.
I was in a class studying from Billy Blanks, and the phone rang. And he said, "Chris, will you take over?" And he was in there for probably, yeah, I have no idea, 20 minutes or a half hour. And let me tell you something. If I had $1 million to pay him for the privilege of overseeing that class while he took a phone call, whoa, I would have probably paid him. It was just an incredible thing for me. And again, it just goes back to when you are passionate about something and you benefit from it, you want to share it. And
Hmm.
I think the best teachers that I know, um, they absolutely get squirts of dopamine going off in their brain when they're able to transfer uh, progress and improvement in martial arts to another person. It's like it's the best thing in the world when you have the experience of helping somebody overcome a fear or a limiting belief, or in some of the situations we deal with, phobias, or whatever. When you have the ability to help somebody find their youth again, wow, it's just so cool.
Hmm.
And at that time, as you well know, early to mid '80s, the idea of getting paid to do martial arts, it wasn't even on my radar. It was as far from it as possible. I would have, you know, I mean, I loved it that much. Yeah.
Hmm. Did you have goals of another career prior to doing martial arts?
I went to school for exercise phys, as you mentioned. So, at the time, honestly, college was always something that just was genetically encoded into my DNA that I was going to be doing. And, there were some times that, am I going to open a fitness center, or am I going to, I didn't want to work like you can go into cardiac rehab with the particular degree that I have, and that didn't excite me as much. I really valued the preventative as opposed to the crisis management of rehabbing somebody from a heart attack or something like that. And it was a good fit for me. But no, honestly, it was martial arts. Throughout high school and college, I was teaching karate out of my garage, and just really loving it.
And what was it like opening your first school?
Scary.
Good word, right?
Yeah. I got to tell you, when the pen was like this as I was signing. I want to say it was $900 a month. And it was a 1 year lease with a 1 year option. And, I'm like,
Right.
and because again, at the time, there weren't as many models of excellence as there are now. I mean, you and I have so many amazing people, across the world, really, that are just doing wonderfully well. But it wasn't that. Um, but what I did have on my side, again, luck, good fortune, blessings. I had the Karate Kid, the Ninja Turtles, the Power Rangers. So what I lacked in business, I was able to, I had an allowable learning curve because of the media that was around at the time that was making martial arts cool for children.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I was reading a little bit more about your schools and what you've done, you've been able to get anti-bullying programs into it looks like 33 public and private schools
Mm.
over the years.
Yes.
Um, First of all, just talk a little bit about. I think I know why you wanted to do it, how you did it, how that started, and how that is going now.
Sure. I there's something that runs deep in my core, and it's injustice. I don't have a tolerance for it. It's always been an Achilles heel. It's always been a soft spot for me. Um, so, as a natural outgrowth of that, the idea of bullying was something that was very emotional and meaningful to me. And then in South Hadley, Massachusetts, there was a girl, Phoebe, who ended up committing suicide. Phoebe's last name is escaping me right now. But when Phoebe committed suicide as a result of bullying, everything exploded. And that topic went national. It was on Larry King. It just was the peak of it. And blessings, right place, right time, right information that I had at the time to be able to take the work that, probably you and I were already doing within our school and then go outside of our school. Initially, it was with Tom Pateri. Tom Pateri had a wonderful, wonderful program called Bully Guard. And it was his experience of martial arts, excuse me, of how a bodyguard maintains calm when people around are, there's chaos
Hmm.
and all of that. So initially it was that. I continued to study the subject and, broaden it and, kind of crystallize it to what our community needed. And it caught fire. And, very proud of it. Thousands, probably
Hmm.
tens of thousands of children went through the program, and it really has had a lasting impact. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that when, school owners and martial arts instructors are taking what they're doing in their school outside of the school, because many people won't ever get the opportunity to be exposed to martial arts, or
Yeah.
whether it's the financial means, or maybe they're just a lot of families are so involved in other activities,
Yeah.
and they don't have time for martial arts, so they don't really truly understand what it even has to offer. But just being exposed to that, bully defense, bully awareness, how to deal with bullies, body language, voice, all of those things. So just even one lesson I can remember many times in school myself, certain classes that just, I went, wow, I never thought of it like that, but now I just heard this and I'm going to take that with me. So you've had that ability to do that in the schools.
Yeah, and I think there's, as you well know, I'm talking to you, so I know but there is two types of bullying. There's physical bullying, and there's the psychological bullying, and 97% of it, 98% of it is psychological. It's not physical. If it was
Hmm.
physical bullying, everybody can just learn how to beat people up and problem solved. So when you break down what we're teaching, there are elements of what we're teaching that there is entire pockets of population that can tremendously benefit from what we're doing. Maybe they don't want the physical stuff, but maybe they need the help and the support of just knowing how to stand tall
Hmm.
diffuse a situation, which of course can be done, without any kind of physical. So there's so many benefits to martial arts. I've worked with uh, elderly people and just helping them with basic movement, and you have the bully defense. You have you know um, um, I've done some work with domestic abuse, and I've gone into shelters where the wife and the children are in hiding from their abuser, and that's a different skill set and different needs that they have. But when you look at all of the things that are encompassed in martial arts, there's something there for everybody.
Hmm.
I truly believe that, and I'm a fan of all of it. Whether it's MMA or Tai Chi, if I could be a white belt on a dot in hundreds of schools, I probably would, because I think all of it is useful within the context of what the situation is.
Well, you just triggered something in my mind when you said that martial arts has something to offer for everyone, and you've probably had this someone say this to you, because I it's ringing in my ears that I've had people try martial arts, and or they've got sports and other activities, and martial arts just isn't for me.
Hmm.
And I feel so I almost feel so bad when they say that, because it's like I just haven't had the chance to show you what it is that you could get out of martial arts, because
Yeah,
there's something there. If you're an athlete, I'm telling you, martial arts is going to make you a better athlete. If you're a student,
yeah.
martial arts is going to make you a better student. I mean, and to go even further, to talk about the leadership and everything else, community service that martial arts promotes. There's just so much in there. So I
Well,
uh,
and I
I do
think
agree with that.
I 100% agree with you. I think sometimes, and look, it happens in my school, it happens in your school. Somebody will say, "Well, it's just not for me." But I think as martial arts schools continue to evolve, and you've had some great people on your podcast talking about this. It's incumbent upon us to have the depth of experience to be able to identify what is it that that person needs, to
Hmm.
get out. Sometimes we have a bias, right? Because we love whatever the physical
Hmm.
skill set is that we do, and we want to push that on somebody else, and that's just you're gonna miss a lot more times than you're going to hit. I find it's just better to it's selfless, right? It's Jason, what are your needs, and how can I more be of service to you, as opposed to this is how we do it. um, and again, blessings and good fortune. Billy Blanks at the time, it just so happened that what he was doing was, what filled my need at the time. Um, but how many people have been eliminated from martial arts because of limited thinking or limited experience on the part of the instructor? Probably an awful lot.
Hmm. Well, this is a perfect segue into the next thing I want to talk about, because one of the number one reasons that students typically quit martial arts is they don't like sparring,
Uh-huh.
or the way that sparring is being taught. And you have developed a system, a retention based sparring system.
Mm.
Talk about that a little bit. And you and I both know where that came from and why, but talk to the audience a little bit about what that program means and what that program is for you.
Yeah, a couple things. One is sparring is the single most. Sparring is responsible for more dropout than anything in in the history of martial arts.
Hmm.
Period, bar none. People generally, what do you compare it to? Do they drop out because of forms? Do they drop out because of warm ups? Do they drop out because of self defense? Or do they drop out because of the functional aspect of martial arts? So, what was identified to me by Century is a lot of people were pulling sparring from their program, and to me, it was a mind melt. It's like, well, if there's not a functional aspect of martial arts, then what are you doing? And when I say functional, I think in terms of timing, distance, and motion or energy. And without those three things there, it might be great for demonstration purposes. And again, half of the team that I have devoted my life to is performance based martial arts. So I'm not knocking that at all. I'm a biggest fan in the world of performance martial arts, but that's a segment of martial arts. Um, when it comes to my personal beliefs, when it comes to self-defense, when it comes to sparring functional things against resisting opponents, you if you don't have that element in there, we're going to fall short on the promises that we espouse to be able to give to somebody. So in my school, it's never been an issue that, oh, everybody drops out because of sparring. Do we have people that have apprehension, about doing it for the first time? For sure. But what I didn't realize that people on the outside did, and it was actually Hanshi Dave Kovar, that made that connection between myself and Century. When it came to him, they said, you ought to talk to my friend Chris Rappold, because I think he might be able to help. Because what I didn't know is that within my school, I had a systematic way of teaching sparring that eliminated you know, the injuries, the discouragements, the dropouts, etc. And when we X-rayed it down, there were some fundamental things that just martial arts schools were missing. And it's not. It's just they weren't. A lot of martial arts schools weren't blessed with the people that I had to be able to model and mentor. Yeah.
Hmm.
So what I did is I put together basically a systematic way of teaching somebody from first lesson right through black belt, and be able to give them the tools and the techniques to be able to learn timing, distance, and motion in a very progressive way that will lead to that level of experience we all want our senior students to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the whole point is to develop skill, right? And without a system of developing skill, I mean, putting on a pair of gloves and boots and a headgear and just kind of going at it, there is a certain element of you kind of learn, by trial and error.
Sure.
But with a systematic approach, we can really develop skills that we can build on. And I think it's great because I have seen many schools that have eliminated sparring because, well, it makes people quit. Well, but what are we trying to accomplish? We can go the other route and implement something that helps us teach it better. And this could really apply to just about anything in our schools, as far as forms or weapons, or if you have a systematic approach to teach skills,
Yeah.
there's going to be some success there.
Yeah. Well, look, when I started, I remember, I put before I got to Billy Blanks' school, I went to another school for a couple of years, and it was just a gentleman teaching out of his kind of garage and all of that. And I remember putting on boxing gloves and getting in with a Golden Gloves boxer. And, I was basically fresh meat for him. Right. And then when I got to Billy Blanks' school, I remember first time, hey, go in the closet and see if you can find some gear, face a partner, fight. I'm like, oh! So it's a different sort of world, from that, and there's such a much more intelligent way to be able to do it. Not knocking anybody, because I had the good fortune of starting on their shoulders. They did it the way they were taught, but it's just much different now. And with all of especially over the past 10 years, with all of the talk about concussions and head trauma, it's a very real thing, and doing it the right way is just, it's so important. Without that, somebody really never gets the learning enjoyment of understanding how to be able to move their body in a way to produce a result, be it self-defense or sparring, etc.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm very encouraged by its success, and proud we have over 100 schools across America that are using the program now. So
Hmm. Yeah, good for you. Well, I have another topic to kind of move into. You have created projects and you've worked with charity organizations to provide 2,000 families in need with Thanksgiving meals, and this really touches my heart because this is something that we have done for over 15 years
mm,
in our school, where we do a kickathon, and I tell the kids, why do we do the kickathon? Why are we doing kicks today? We're doing kicks so we can raise money. Why are we raising money? Because we can go and buy food. What are we going to do with that food? We're going to go and share it with people in our community. And so we get the kids involved in this whole process, all the way down to filling the baskets and delivering the baskets. And we've even had the fortune to deliver it to the homes, versus just the organizations. And man, what an amazing feeling that is, especially for someone like myself who came from a home that did benefit from going somewhere and getting, food and getting help from other organizations.
Sure.
So to be able to give back like this, amazing for me. How did this start for you? And talk a little bit about, the charity that you do in your community.
Sure. So, you know, I'm a graduate of all of Tony Robbins's programs, which was, a big thrill for me. I last well, anyways, so I went through Life Mastery and Date with Destiny and all of that, and of course, that's been a big pull for him. He always talked about his basket brigade. There was one person, Keith Hafner, out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and he looked at the project and kind of modeled something like that at his school, and he shared the idea, and I really latched onto it because to me it was experiential learning, kind of like what you just said. A lot of times, like as a child, we always raised money for something at our school, but it was, like the starving kids in Ethiopia, which is worthy. But as a child, you donate the 40 cents for lunch, but you don't really have a sense of how's that money being spent or where is it going. So when I saw the idea, I said, this is wonderful. The children raise the money, they package the food, and then they deliver the food, because there is nothing more powerful than a 7-year-old knocking on a door and seeing another 7-year-old on the other side of the door receiving the basket. I mean, that is worth 1,000 lectures of, well, you should be thankful for what you got.
Hmm.
It's a different sort of vibe. It's a different sort of feeling. Uh, so we started first year. Our goal was to feed 50 families. We fed 64. The next year we fed 125. Our top year was pre-COVID. We were closing in on feeding 4,000 families that year. I want to say we got up to about 35 something, and
Mm.
that's a large share of those are individual deliveries. So, and if you can imagine, I mean, literally, there's 1,000 people, they're helping and packaging and doing all of that. So maybe 3 years ago, we passed the $1 million mark and over 40,000 baskets delivered. And this is this will be our 28th year doing it now. And back in 2007, we actually formalized the process. We created a nonprofit, which houses this and some of the other things that we do. But it's our labor of love. I mean, it has created so many memories for our team,
Hmm.
for our families. I have shared the idea of the Turkey Brigade with every martial art industry organization that there is, and I'm over the moon proud
Hmm.
to say that I know, you know, a lot of schools around the country that are doing it because the idea was shared. Somebody shared it with me, and then I, publicized it as we grew, and it's really been wonderful. And side note, not only have people spun off turkey brigades, from watching what we do, but I've had so many other students grow up in our program and continue the tradition with now their children.
Hmm.
I had other children that came up in our program become inspired and end up doing amazing community and philanthropic work in their life. So it's really ripple, 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 ripple. It's been a beautiful labor of love.
Well, I think I may owe you a huge thank you because I learned about this probably in about that 2008, 2000, that time. I think I was sitting in on a Maya seminar, and it was Keith Scott who introduced it.
Yep.
And so if it came from you, huge thank you, because the people in my Moore Park area have benefit quite a bit from us doing it over the years. So, like you said, ripple effect.
It's all good. It's all good.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to finish. We got about a little bit less than 5 minutes left.
Sure.
Um, Sport karate, the future of sport karate. What do you see? It's evolved over the years. It's changed over the years. Rules have changed. Um, what do you see as the future of sport karate?
Yeah, I think the future is bright. I think I I feel very secure that Paul Mitchell will continue to lead the way, and not from the stand. I don't mean to say that arrogantly, like we're going to continue to win and we're better than everybody. Not at all. But I think the support from John Paul is very strong. I think his commitment to investing in this sport is strong, and he loves what martial arts is about. So I think from within the sphere that I work in, I think it's strong. I also think sport karate is a, there's a certain amount of people that may very well enter the cage and you know uh, do what the UFC does, and God bless them for doing that. And but that's a certain type of person. There are other people that performance martial arts is where they're at, and they
Hmm.
love that. They love participating in that. There are other people that love the idea of being able to compete in a kind of a stop action, sport. Um, and what I'm seeing, especially over the past couple of years, COVID really kind of brought out everybody's thinking. I think it expanded everybody's thinking. There's all sorts of virtual things happening now, and
Hmm.
I think it's really exciting that we have a lot of good brains in the sport karate world, and I think it will continue to grow and thrive with the next tier of people that are going to come and help to lead the way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Well, I want to give you just an opportunity to leave us with your parting thoughts on on anything else that maybe we didn't cover today, or even just a minute or so of advice, motivation to anybody that's watching this video.
Whoa. Um,
Whoa, that's a big one.
yeah, that really is tall order. No, I just, I'm very grateful. There may be students that are listening to this, and I'm very grateful for the trust that they place in us to do what we do. For all of the martial artists that have crossed my path, both on the professional martial arts side and on the sports side, I just, it's just been the privilege of my life to be able to have those people in my life and to be able to work around them, learn from them, and then hopefully pass on some inspiration. So listen. I'm very, very excited about what the future holds, and I'm delighted to be a part of it.
Well, thanks for sharing some time with me today and just sharing some of your experience and your story. I find it just so inspiring. I love this every Monday that I get to speak with people like yourself that are so giving of themselves as a martial artist. The great work that you do in your community and in the sport karate world. So thanks again for sharing with us today, and I look forward to sharing this video with more people. And just want to remind everybody that I'll be here again every Monday, usually at 12 o'clock. Next week, we got Nick Doherty. We got Jeff Smith coming up, Troy Miller, Bodie Sanders, Harry Hunsucker, Rob Wetmore. Got a ton of it, a ton of guests. It's super exciting to do this each week. So
We
thank you
got
again, Mr. Rappold. Thank you so
sir,
much.
you've got some heavy hitters coming up for sure, sir. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, have a great rest of the week, and hopefully we'll catch up soon and see each other in person.
Yes, sir.
All right. Take care, guys. We'll see you next Monday.